which is that blockchains can only at most have two of the following three properties: scalability, decentralization, and security. Now this is what's called the blockchain trilemma. And while there's an element of truth to it, what we realized at Harmony back in 2018 was that there was a way to get beyond this. And that was, there was research, there was new cryptographic primitives, there were new techniques that we could all combine together to create something that's more scalable without sacrificing decentralization or security. And we just needed to bring the best research to production. And that's what we've done for the past year, working really hard, building out the team, building out this protocol. So the key core technology that we're using is what we call deep sharding. And sharding is an important technology because it allows you to parallelize your blockchain. So it allows us to have multiple blockchains running side by side that can talk to each other. It's actually a technique that comes from traditional databases. Google has actually pioneered a lot of this research. And we're taking that same concept and applying it to blockchain. And the word deep comes from the fact that we don't just stop at sharding. Sharding allows us to increase the throughput, but that's not enough. Blockchains are also slow and they're expensive. And so that's why we're also optimizing the consensus and the networking layer of our blockchain together to get that, to really maximize the performance. So that reduces the latency, it makes our blockchain faster. So as a user, you have real-time settlement. And it also means that the costs will go down. And so here's some of the highlights of our technology for those crypto nerds who are out there in the audience. We combine verifiable random functions and verifiable delay functions to create a randomness beacon in our chain. And that's really important to do sharding in a secure way. We also have used rateless erasure coding to improve the speed of block propagation. And that's really important because that, again, reduces the time between blocks and also increases the overall throughput of our network. And finally, we use BLS signatures to aggregate the signatures on a block, and it reduces the total number of round trips you need to come to consensus. And you get all the good properties of PBFT, which is one of the most battle-tested consensus algorithms in the world, but you get all the speed benefits out of it. That's what we call it FBFT, or Fast Byzantine Fault Tolerance. So that's enough about the tech. It's really, really fast. I can tell you that. Back in November of last year, actually, we did a benchmarking test. On our own internal testnet, we spun up 40,000 nodes, and we were able to achieve 118,000 transactions per second. And that was important because it validated for us the fact that what we're building works, that it will be able to scale. Now, I think if we have 10 million people, we'll need more than 118,000 transactions per second. But even now, Visa processes about 20,000 transactions per second. So our network could already do 5 times the amount of transactions that Visa is doing, which is pretty good. I think that'll get us pretty far. Now, I want to talk about this number, which is the other aspect I was talking about, right? It's not just about throughput, it's also about cost. And this 24 cents is the average transaction fee on Ethereum. And the reason this is important is because this is kind of a bottleneck to, there's a speed bottleneck. Like if you don't have enough throughput, then how can you get as many users as you want on your platform? But this is another bottleneck, it's a financial bottleneck, which is that if the cost per transaction is too high, then it limits the number of use cases that can actually be built. And so this is something we think about a lot. And we ask ourselves this question, what if we could reduce that by 1,000x? And we have. And then a key part of this is not just the optimization and the technology stack that I was just talking about, it's also about proof of stake. And so we've thought a lot about how to migrate away from a model based on proof of work, which has really expensive externalities of mining. Basically, you have to burn energy to secure the network. With proof of stake, you eliminate that, and it really brings the cost down. And this is a little graph of our market mechanism for proof of stake, which we but I won't go into it here. But we have a whole blog post on it. I encourage you guys to read it if you have time. And so back in June, actually, of this year, we launched our mainnet. And we're starting it out centralized, a permissioned mainnet, and slowly moving to permissionless. But even since June, here are some of the stats that we've gotten. We have over 320 foundational nodes. These are external people all over the world running a Harmony node. This puts us actually as one of the top 15 most decentralized blockchain by that measure of decentralization, which we're really proud about. We've only been live for 3 months and we've already hit such a major milestone. This is about 30% external participation and over 99% average node uptime. So we have a very stable network. We're really, really proud of the fact that we're putting this research into production and it's working. And people around the world are seeing the value and joining. And it was really important to us when we designed our protocol from the very beginning. We wanted to make sure that you could run a node on your laptop. And in some ways that's more symbolic than anything else. But if you think about it, if we're really going to build a decentralized economy, and it's going to be truly decentralized and open and permissionless for anyone to participate, it should be that easy. That anyone, a student in college, or wherever you are in the world, most people now have laptops. And if they can connect to the internet and run a Harmony node, then they become part of this movement. And so that's why, these are the stats. You only need 2 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage, and the monthly cloud cost, if you weren't going to run it on your laptop but actually run in the cloud, is $25. So this is really important because the lower the barrier to entry, the greater the amount of participation, the greater amount of decentralization we can have on our network. And that is why we also launched an incentivized testnet called Pangaea. And the whole goal of Pangaea was to bring as many people, even people who had never run a node before in their life, to participate and be part of a blockchain protocol for real. And this is what we found. So this is a map of all the different people running a Pangaea node. And I'm happy to say that we have very global coverage. This is true decentralization. South America, North America, Africa, Europe, Asia, even Australia. And one of my favorite things is actually the island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean there, Ponta Delgada, which is actually an island in the Azores in Portugal. And so it's something that our team just feels so thrilled about, that really this is a global movement. Not just Harmony, but blockchain on the whole is really all over the world now. And here's some of the stats. So we had 2,500 signups from 96 different countries. 50% of those people were actually, that was their first time ever running a node. So I want all of you in the audience to know that blockchain is not something that you just have to talk about or read online. You can actually yourself participate. And that's something that we really believe in, lowering the barrier to entry. And that's why we created a one-click deploy script, so that anyone can just click one button and in 5 minutes be connected and mining block rewards on our network. So that's just a background of our technology and what we've built. We have a working network. We're really excited, and it's really fast. But if you build a highway out in the middle of nowhere, and no one's using it, then what good is it? It's sort of like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make any noise? And so I'm really excited to talk a bit more about the actual adoption. And the first number that I want to talk about is $113,000. And this number was actually the price paid for this car. It was a digital Formula 1 car, a crypto collectible sold online by our partner Lympo at auction. And the reason I bring this up is because Lympo has been a long-term partner with us since actually the very beginning. And we've been thinking a lot about how to work together, how we can get into the gaming space. And that led us to actually make an acquisition with Animoca of a mobile application called Quidd. And Quidd is the world's largest digital collectible ecosystem. It's a mobile app where people, with their brands like Game of Thrones, Disney, Marvel, Rick and Morty, a lot of household global brands, and users buy and trade digital branded collectibles. And we're really excited about this because right now, Quidd is not on blockchain, but using blockchain and non-fungible tokens, we can create new business models. We can create new kinds of ways for people to collect items in a purely digital form. And it's sort of like, Bitcoin is the first time you can own a digital item on the internet. It's the same thing here. We have digital scarcity for the first time. And we think that with Quidd, we can create something even bigger than this. This is a highlight of some of the brands that Quidd has. We can create something even bigger, which is we want to create a games ecosystem with these IP licenses and these items at the core. It's this thesis called extensible gaming. It's a really exciting world where people, it's sort of like Ready Player One, if you've seen that movie, where people are actually collecting items and bringing them into different games. So this is the long-term vision, and I think it's a really good foot in the door for us to explore the potential for blockchain gaming on Harmony. So stay tuned for more updates as we start to build that out. And another partner that I'm really excited to announce today, and who will actually be presenting directly after me, is a company called Lympo. It is a mobile application that incentivizes people to complete health challenges. It's a health tracker app. So you get paid to actually walk or run or do exercises. And they're experiencing really rapid growth. In fact, such rapid growth that they are outgrowing the Ethereum network that they originally launched on. And so we're really excited to be working with them and helping them migrate to Harmony's blockchain, because we have solved scalability and we can actually support the number of users that they have and all the transactions, 5.4 million fitness challenges. If you're paying someone, if you're paying each person for each one of those challenges individually, and you're paying the 24 cents Ethereum transaction fee, 5.4 million times 20 cents is about 1 million. So they would have had to pay $1 million in transaction fees just to service that number of fitness challenges. So you can already start to see the value of scalability. And what's even more exciting is that Lympo is not just about an incentivized health tracker app. It's actually more about health data at the end of the day. Their vision is so much bigger, and it's something that we really believe in and got us excited from the very start, which is that health, the data that you generate on the app by completing these challenges actually has real world value, and you can monetize it, either to people that want to advertise or market to you, or to insurers that want that data so they know how better to value you as a customer. And I won't go too far into that, but Marius, who is speaking after me, has a really exciting presentation and will talk all about this new data economy that we think blockchain can enable. And we believe in data sovereignty. We believe that people, we kind of live in an age where companies like Facebook or Google, they collect all this data about you, and then they use it to manipulate you. And they make money out of it, and you kind of just hand it over for free. And it's kind of an odd paradigm if you sit down and think about it. And that's why we believe blockchain is so important. It's not just about finance, it's also about data. But finance is also an important piece, and that's why we're also partnering with Carbon. Carbon is basically reducing the barrier of entry for new people using crypto apps. So you may have tried to use DApp on Ethereum and realize that, I have to go and buy ETH first. I have to go onto the exchange, do KYC, buy the token, transfer it out, and then load it into my wallet and then use the app. This is a really high friction user experience. So what Carbon has done is actually integrated payments directly into native protocols. And so then, if let's say I'm using an app, I can actually just pull up Apple Pay and use Face ID, and in less than a minute, I can have purchased the one token in Harmony's case, and be using the app right then and there. And any app developer that works on Harmony can actually integrate this into their app with 5 lines of code. And beyond that, I'm also really excited to announce that partnering with Carbon, we'll be launching a stablecoin on the Harmony network in 3 months. And that's important because that opens up all these different financial applications, from payments to lending and all the things that we were talking about in the previous talk. And so it forms the basis of the financial ecosystem on Harmony. And finally, we think a lot about liquidity. We realize that as a core protocol, we need to be in as many places in the world as possible. We need to expand our reach globally. And that's why we have, we've worked with these 4 exchanges, and we continue to work with more. And we had great responses on some of the exchanges, and most of all, actually, we're excited to announce that we were recently shortlisted to be listed on Coinbase. And this is important because I think there's recognition from a really respected exchange of the value of the Harmony network. And so that's where we've been in the last year. Our team has actually grown significantly from the first 6 founders to now a team of 20 on site and an extended team of over 40 people all around the world. And we're still hungry and still as foolish as when we first started. And we've continued to bring on top talent from companies like Facebook, or graduates of Berkeley and Oxford, and really building an all-star team that we hope will be able to take Harmony to the next level in the coming year. But after all of this, there's only one number that really matters at the end of the day. And that number is 1. And 1 is not just our ticker symbol. It also symbolizes for us what blockchain is about. It's not just about the individual. It's also about the whole, the collective. And it's a metaphor for consensus. Each one of us can be an individual node, but through the consensus process, all the nodes in the network come to agreement and become one whole. And I think for us it symbolizes, why blockchain is so important. It's more than just technology. It's a movement. It's a social movement. And that's why we call ourselves the blockchain for humans. We really believe that blockchain is the platform for us to take a stand against some of the negative effects that, whether it's technology like Facebook that is, starting to manipulate people online, manipulate their behavior or track everything, or whether it's a government that is not really having their people's best interest at heart. Blockchain is something that can allow us all to stand up against that and create an alternative. And that's why, if you really resonate with our vision, I want to leave you with this message, which is be the one. If this resonates with you, if you want to build a new world that is more inclusive and more equitable, then please come and talk to me or join the Harmony network. There's so many different ways you can participate. And be the one that stands up for what you believe in. Be the one who makes a difference. Thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to. Don't be shy.
Will Harmony be listed in Indonesia Exchange?
I don't know yet, actually. I think we would really be thrilled to be listed somewhere in Indonesia because we love this market. And actually, I was reading this morning, Indonesia is projected to be one of the top 4 economies by 2030, which is just phenomenal. So we see Indonesia as a very strategic market for us to be involved in. And so we're really looking for partners here in the local ecosystem, whether that's exchanges or companies or other projects. So please come up to me after this and let's talk. We're really open. We love to hear from the people who are actually here. We think that building a decentralized community is just as important as building a decentralized blockchain.
Next question.
Harmony provide funding for a good Indonesian project if you feel that they solve some of the very important issues that Indonesia is facing?
Yeah, so the question was, does Harmony provide funding for projects that are solving important problems? And the answer is absolutely. So we are working actually on raising an ecosystem fund that will be able to actually support these kinds of projects that want to build on Harmony. And even before the ecosystem fund, let's talk. We're happy to support you financially or even just through our own sort of resources on engineering or marketing, whatever we can do to help you. If you want to be part of Harmony, then you're part of our family. So absolutely. Any other questions? There's got to be one more. All right. Oh, here we go.
Oh, Venetian.
So, to my understanding, is the Harmony will have a tendency of replacing Ethereum. Is that the case?
I think it's not about replacing Ethereum. I think that we are building something that has the same properties of Ethereum, but has it's more scalable and more cost effective. I also think that if we think about fighting between different blockchains, then we're thinking too small, because actually the entire size of the crypto market, even Ethereum, is still really small, and the pie is actually much, much bigger. So we don't think about trying to take away from other blockchain projects or protocols. We think about how we can actually break out of the small crypto ecosystem and into the mainstream and make this big, make it a lot bigger.
So, in other words, if we look at the Ethereum as they call blockchain 2.0, so will Harmony define themselves as blockchain 3.0 because it's faster, bigger, more like a higher capacity?
I think people have different words they use to describe different stages of blockchain. I don't necessarily buy into those narratives, but I would say that I would say we're at the cutting edge is what I can say. We're sort of like going from 2G with the original blockchains to 5G. You have that kind of level of speed up. But I also think that ultimately, as any software product, it's never finished. So we're going to continue to do our research and continue to improve our protocol long into the future. So the journey is not over, but we've definitely made a quantum leap forward in terms of what the technology is capable of doing.
Then the token was issued on the ERC20, for example, and once it's converted to eHarmony, then is that compatible or is it totally different?
Yeah, so we issued actually a token originally on the Binance chain, so our BEP2 token, and we will be doing a token swap to the native mainnet token soon. So at that point, then we are not part of the Binance or the Ethereum ecosystem. We're our own protocol natively. But there are ways to build bridges between protocols. Still kind of early technology that's not perfect, but there's ways to bridge ecosystems.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right. Any last questions? Otherwise, thank you guys so much. Really, and Marius, who's speaking next.
Yes, our next speaker will be Maria Silenskis, CPO and co-founder of Lympo, with the session called mobile health data influence in forming the future decentralized economy.
Hello everyone. I really like to thank Nick for a great introduction.